Okay, class, we'll actually be crimping some Cat5 cables. I have tools. I have the Cat5 cable standards here. The T568B is what we'll be using. And we have tools, we have crimpers, we have the cable strippers, the cable cutters. I need you guys to practice caution and follow the schematics on your T568 Cat5 cable standards chart. And we will be using the B standard, which is orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. You will need to do that on both ends. Double check your connectors. Make sure that your wires are all the way into the connector. Make sure they are in the proper order, and verify that before you go to crimp the connector on the end of the cable. The casing needs to be up into the connector. Make sure that your wires are to the end of the connector, and make sure that it's white, orange, orange, white, green, blue, white, blue, green, white, brown, brown on both ends. Alright, these are some of the tools we'll be using. This is an RJ45 crimper. There's several different models, several different types. Some of them actually will do more than just one type of connector, but what we'll be using is an RJ45 crimper today. We will be cutting the cable with a cable cutter. We also have a insulated stripper. This is an ideal model, but you actually put your cable up into it and actually just spiral it around, and it'll let us strip off the insulator off the casing. We'll also need to trim using the back of these or something to actually cut the actual little bit of left Kevlar, the little strand of Kevlar that's actually in the wire that will actually keep tension off the actual wires. So I am Michael Taylor, and I will be letting some of my students actually crimp some Cat5 cables. Alright, students, let's begin. I will be walking around. We are video demonstrating this for an actual class that I'm actually doing right now. So we'll make sure that we actually try to bring up this camera properly and try to get some of these things recorded.
How far down should I go?
I would leave a little extra. You can always trim off the excess.
Sorry, that much. Start like
back
there.
Back a little bit further. I think that'll be perfect right there. And you can just spiral it around like 2 or 3 times. And that's actually that's why you have that little finger thing. It actually works like that. If you do that, then you can actually
pull it straight off.
Yep.
That easy.
Yep.
And then do the other end too.
What I recommend is if you go ahead and take off the insulator off the end of your wire on both sides, make sure that you crimp the one end and just double check to make sure that some of the insulator doesn't. You want to make sure that you do one end, because you start pulling, start messing with things. Sometimes your wires will come out of the connector, or it's kind of hard to do. I always like to do and crimp one connector at a time to just ensure that something didn't move. You know what I mean? So I'll also cut me off a piece of wire here. And for this purpose, we're only doing like little 2 to 3 foot segments.
So I should separate these first.
Right. I would do. And another cool thing about that is I also like to do like a quadrant. Orange, white, orange. Green, white, blue. Blue, white, green. Brown, white, brown. I always like to go like what order I'll probably be using them. So I try to do a little quadrant like that. I know my orange, white, orange are going to be right next to each other. So I'll do those first. Once I get them untwisted, a lot of times I'll grab towards the base where it's going towards the casing of the wire. Then I'll kind of grab them a little bit, wiggle them a little bit to try to get them straight. A lot of times I'll hold the wire with my thumb to make sure that they don't move. And then what I'll do is start working on the other set of pairs. And I know I need the green white next, so I'll untwist those down towards the casing of the wire, and then I'll pull those over toward pull that green white over towards the orange. So it's orange, white, orange. Then I untwist my green pair, and then I pull the white green over next to the solid orange. So right now I have between my finger and my index finger and my thumb, I have white, orange, orange, white, green. The next one is the pairs of blue, and it should be blue, white, blue. What you want to do is keep this one off, and then it'll be green, and then it'll be blue, white, blue, and then green. So, and sometimes these wires, when they're twisted pairs. So what you're doing is you're untwisting them and getting them straight again. Sometimes you got to work with them a little bit, just kind of wiggle them a little bit to get them straight. And sometimes you got to grab and put a little bit of tension, just wiggle it a little bit, and it'll straighten them out a little bit for you. So, and then brown, white, brown is your last set. So when you do get all your wires arranged, what you want is orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. A lot of times, once I get my wires straightened out really good, what I do is get them nice and straight. Then I look at what I need roughly to go up into a connector, and then I'll cut them off nice and even. If you have a little bit extra, you can always pull in your casing and get it up into the connector a little bit. Once you guys start getting your wires in the proper order, when you go to install it into the connector like your paper shows you, the tab will be facing down. Your pins will be pointing away from you, and the actual opening of the connector will be facing you. And with the tab facing down is when you shove orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown up into the connector. And then you look at the end to make sure all your wires are up to the end, touching. You should be able to even see like the copper shininess of the wire. That shows that you got it all the way to the end of the connector. So. And what I normally do is once I have my connector on, I just work my casing all the way up to where it hits the plastic in there and stops. And it goes past the little tab that goes down and bites against the actual sheathing or the actual insulator of the case or the insulator of the cable. And you just grab your crimper once you've double verified that your connector's on there with all the proper wire sequence. Then you crimp it on. A lot of times I'll double crimp it just to make sure that my connector's on.
Yeah. Now how do I twist it to make it? Just give it one spin?
I would spin this way, like that.
And then just twist it all the way up?
What you want to do is try to get them straight.
Right.
And green. Yep, you got them all in the right sequence.
Right. And then you just twist them up? Or you want them straight?
You want them straight. You want to try to keep them straight so it'll go straight to the connector. Yeah, and when you start trimming them off and stuff, you realize that you still have twist up in your casing until you get up to this point. So it's well within like a centimeter and a half. So you still got plenty of twist in your casing that's keeping it a twist in your Cat5 cable helps with impedance of noise, signal, EMI or RFI, those type of things. It helps to keep interferences from happening, on your wire. That's why they keep or maintain a twist in your pairs. So you try to keep your twist in there. That's why I untwist them down to just where the casing starts. And then when I start working on getting them nice and straight, then I trim them off with knowing that I have plenty enough wire to go up into the end of the connector. Some people do a general rule of a 1/2 inch. I always like to make sure that I have plenty of wire into the connector, and then I can always work some of the casing back up if I need to. So. But as you practice, you get used to where you can almost cut it off where you know you have just enough to go up into the connector and with a little margin of 1/8 of an inch or something like that, and that lets you make sure your wires are actually looking pretty nice and straight now. So, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Pretty good. We're actually doing a demonstration video right now.
Good. So I'm not in your way. I'm not in my hot stove.
That's okay. Have you crimped it? You could actually get away where you could just pull your connector out just a little bit. Grab something, trim off your Kevlar. And it's not that it's a big problem, it's just that it looks nicer if you don't have that just hanging there. And then make sure your casing's up past the tab. I know sometimes one little problem that could be a problem when you're dealing with Cat5 cable and crimping connectors, stuff like that. Man, that's excellent, man. Looks good. Oh, the wires aren't all the way up in the air. See? And glue and stuff kind of jumped a little bit. One other thing is you got to be careful about your connector. Is that sometimes if you start working with the casing, sometimes it'll almost come in the way when it hits there. Sometimes it might pull your wires back up out of the connector, and I think that's kind of what happened here. So there you go. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. Yep. Yep, we're all the way in the end. Yep. And oh, that's what I was saying. Sometimes you run into the problem with if you have somebody that's colorblind. How do you know what wire sequence to put them in? Sometimes you can tell enough between the light and the dark that you can see that you can definitely a lot of times tell the difference between the white, say for instance the white, orange, and the orange. A lot of times you can see the white, the lighter color, and the darker color. And a lot of times orange will be lighter than brown. So sometimes I actually had a student last year that actually colorblind. So we actually had to work with it. And he got to where he could familiarize himself with the lighter and the darker colors, and he could distinguish enough between the green and the blue, and between the orange and the brown, and he knew that orange was a different variation of a shade than green and the blue and stuff. So it got to where, but that could be a challenge.
No, it might be on the other end the exact same way.
Yeah. The only problem is that you need to make sure your casing's up in there.
The casing goes all the way up.
Yeah, casing actually
I
goes.
figured right because you don't want the open
Well,
wire.
and the casing takes all your stress. See, a casing will keep the stress.
Okay.
Take the stress away from the actual little individual wires that get the teeth of the actual RJ45 connector bites down through those individual wires. So that actually keeps the stress off the actual individual wires. There's little wires of each of the 4 pairs that are in there.
So can I get that off and redo it, or am I screwed?
Well, it would probably test, but the problem is, over time, all that stress might break that wire. You could cut it off. I hate the fact that you did all that.
It's all good. I'm learning.
But yeah, I don't think we're going to get it up into the connector because your tab's already down. So I would probably just cut it off and start again, if you don't mind, Jeff.
Okay.
That is one thing that you'll realize and learn, especially those that are watching the video. You'll realize that sometimes you practice and practice and practice, and I've been doing this for years and have been teaching it for a while. I've been teaching it for a while too, and you still realize that it isn't perfect every single time. Sometimes with practice, I'm pretty successful when I test the cable that it works pretty successfully every single time. But over time, when you print several 1,000 cables, it becomes second nature. You get used to how to straighten the wires, and you'll realize in a matter of just 3 minutes you can make a cable. I mean, it's 2 to 3 minutes you can make it pretty quick. But the key isn't to race. The key is to just try to get the cable correct and make sure it works really well. He might not have had his casing. the insulator casing or the sheathing of the cable up into the connector, but he had all his wires in the right sequence. That's the key, is before you crimp it. Once you crimp a connector, you cannot like uncrimp it. So you pretty much have to cut it off and start all over again. So and that's another thing. Sometimes people will use pulled wire, or they'll use something that's already been used several times. That's why when I'm crimping cables, I like to use brand new wire, because anytime you've had wire that's had some stress on it or something like that, sometimes you can't look into the sheeting and see if a wire's been pulled. There could be a breakage in your wire. Sometimes you can find the knot in the casing and stuff, but that's why you want to make sure that you have good wire and that everything's good when you're crimping stuff, and making sure that you stay consistent to the standard. So a lot of times 10100s, like if you're using a network card that has a 100 megabit per second rate, a lot of times it uses 4 wires. But if you have a 1000 megabit card, a lot of times it uses all 8. It'll use all 8 wires. So that's why it's important to stay true to standard. If you're punching down a patch panel, or if you're creating straight throughs or patch cables, whatever terminology you would like to use out there, you want to stay true to a standard, because if another technician comes in or another person comes in and you guys get a job someplace and they see that it's kept consistent this way, they know their troubleshooting steps that they need to troubleshoot or solve the problem. But if you go into a place and somebody's used just whatever random pairs and whatever sequence just because they wanted to do it that way, one, that doesn't meet standards. A lot of times it can cause the EMI or the RFI can affect that. There's radio frequency interferences, or if you're running wire around electrical units or around something that puts off an ambient noise of some sort, it could cause problems. So.
How far up do I want it? Like basically covering them as far as I can?
If you actually yeah, you gotta have the casing up in there before you crimp.
I haven't finished it yet. Just trying to get the casing up in there.
That side's crimped. Yep. Oh, then what happened is somebody crimped the connector.
Put it back in.
Somebody crimped the connector and put it back in our box.
The one I just did, probably.
No, actually, I think there's a couple other ones in there.
See,
the pins are up on that one. See, they weren't on the other one. So that was our problem.
Did you say that's good or further?
Oh no, that's perfect. See, you see where it hits the square? Yep. It hit right up at that edge. Cool. And if you wanted to trim this off, you could probably just do this right here. Oh, and I knocked the connector off.
It'll go right back in.
Yeah, it'll go right back. Yes, sir. We got the Kevlar. Believe it or not, I don't know if you could make anything out of that. That's like the Kevlar strand. That's what I've been told.
Now this is upside down.
The tab always faces down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And just once you get the connector back on there, we'll make sure we'll verify that it's orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. So. Also, over here, make sure that we appreciate their help with this project, and we're making sure that we crimp RJ45 connectors, demonstrate what we do in the networking class. So, orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. Yep. All the way there. And then work on that brown wire just a little bit, and your casing. Sometimes you just wiggle just a little bit and get your casing. Yep, the casing's up in it, and your wires are all the way in. Just double verify that they're in the right sequence. I think they are. White, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. Yes, sir.
I need to get my glasses. Same thing on the other side.
Yes, sir.
Something wrong with it? Taking a lot of pressure to thing.
Did you get the connector all the way up into the connector? Yeah,
I think it's the shielding in there, because you see the Kevlar? I think I got some of that. That didn't work supposed to be crimped.
if you got it crimped good, it should be good to go. And it also could be that that gear in there might be just a little bit tight. Ratchet.
Oh, you mean in the
Yeah.
cover?
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was that crumble. Thought it was my wire.
Yeah, after thousands of uses, sometimes they wear out. Oh, do you want to test it? Right now, what we're using is a fluke tester. I'll show in the video what type of test we're actually using, but we're actually using a fluke brand tester. There's a lot of different variations of cable testers. We actually use 2 or 3 different types. This actually will tell us the cable length of the wire too, and we also have a. When you hear that beep, you must pass. We also have like a little ID. It tells us what type of you can actually get a kit with a fluke tester that'll actually let you, when you're punching down drops and panels, you can actually plug these in at different drops throughout the building. If you're in a room or if you're doing a whole room, you could get up to several different numbers of IDs. What you can do is just plug them in a certain sequence all the way around the room, and then what that lets you do is be able to run a test on each of the drops. You can validate that the drop is working properly. That's more for like if I'm wanting to test from the panel to the drop, but that'll actually let me also tag the panel whatever drop number it is. If I know ID is plugged in, the ID 1 through 20 is plugged into room 116, which is our instructional lab. Room 116A, I believe, is correct room number. We can actually go to the panel, and as we're writing those down, we can indicate what drop it is in that room. So the fluke tester is a really good tester, and oh, you're wanting to test yours. I will demonstrate, or I'll show them the tester after you're done testing your.
You can use mine and demonstrate if you want.
Oh yeah. See, a lot of times we have like a test. Says testing, and his passed, and it'll tell us that it is 2 feet long, and it is connected, and it has found the ID number 1. So this little sentinel key has ID number 1 programmed into it. You can also get them other numbers. So 2 for 2 that test out. I sure hope Mr. Taylor's passes. Would not look good.
Pressure.
No pressure. We got a beep. I don't know if all of us really, I know that we haven't really measured these wires, but it's pretty funny how all of us pulled these out and they actually almost match in perfect length. They're pretty close.
When did you say that one? That one's like half a foot longer.
Yeah. A lot of times it'll get you relative footage. So, and so. Joe's hard at work here. Put him on the spot here, but we're actually getting the other end put on. He actually had one crimped already. He just had a little bit of a casing issue.
Which one was the one that you already threw the one away?
Yeah, I threw it in the garbage can. It was already crimped. There's no way we'd actually be able to use that connector.
Yeah, but I was making sure that we threw it away so we didn't get put back in there for a third time.
Oh yeah, I've actually found a couple of different ones. I'm kind of curious. It's probably from a previous class or something. Somebody might have just been playing with the connectors and put them back in the box. They probably didn't realize that with even if you don't have a wire in there, either that or they did and just went ahead and put them back in there. But even if you don't have a wire up in the connector, it still crimps. So.
No, I lost it. You gotta redo your colors again.
Mm-hmm. Orange, white, orange. Green, white, blue. Blue, white, green. Brown, white, brown. Crossover cable would be the opposite on both ends. It would be orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown on one end, and it'd be green, white, green, orange, white, blue, blue, white, orange, brown, white, brown on the other end. So that'd be T568B on one side, T568A on the other side. I'm sorry, you were saying?
So the data cables are reversed for sending and receiving?
Right, and that's where, like you guys were talking about, that's where you can actually create a cable and connect two computers together without even having to have a switch. Now you have to manually program in numbers in two different devices or in two different computers to be able to share. They got to have
a transferring from the Xbox to the computer. We used the Xbox's IP address and did FTP.
Oh, well, see, that will work too. So, but the key is a lot of times it has to have you have to have an IP address in the same ring because that's like it'd be a totally different network if you have 192.168.1.1 and then you have 192.168.2.1. They're in two different IP ranges. You want to put them both in an IP. Like if you wanted to if you had a crossover cable just between two computers, a lot of times I just go 192.168.1.1 on one computer, 192.168.1.2 on the second computer, and then you can it's just creating an uplink between the two when you use a crossover cable. That'll be another lesson that we do another time. But what we're actually doing right now is straight through cables, and it requires a switch. I mean, you're connecting everything back to a panel that's connected into a rack of switches. So. Now comes the moment of truth.
What's the noise it makes if it doesn't?
I was struggling on this last connection. I don't know if it's going to be good.
The cool thing about this tester is it'll tell you which pairs are open. It'll tell you which ones. It'll tell you if there's an open pair or failed on a certain thing. It'll tell you. All you have to do is switch that bad boy over to test. You want to hear?
Come on.
Uh-oh. Misfire.
Oh.
Fail. Misfire.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's that one.
I'm not trying to make a.
I was rushing to get that one in there.
No, what happened is your orange, white, orange jumped.
On me.
And it should have been orange, white, orange. And then your blue and blue, white jumped over. And then green, white, green, brown, white, brown. And
they just untwisted on me.
Yeah.
See, I was starting like this much slack because I wanted to be able to get the casing, the insulation up in there.
See, I jinxed it because I said no pressure.
I got one end good.
Right. And the key is, it is not uncommon when you go to slide your wires up into up into a connector rather, that you got to check your pairs again because sometimes they'll jump.
Yeah.
So
I should have looked at it before I cranked it for sure.
And for this demonstration purpose, believe it or not, this actually is very, very cool because this actually gives us an illustration of that our cable will tell us miswire, and it'll say fail up at the corner as opposed to pass. Instead of telling us the footage, it tells us miswire. And then you know to check your connector. And a lot of times, if, for instance, you got one end that has something.
I think it was just the orange that flipped on me. I think is the only thing that happened.
It looks like blue. It looks like you have white. It looks like you have orange, orange, white, blue, blue, white.
Oh, the green
white,
flipped out too.
Green,
yeah, it messed up.
Brown, white, brown. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking.
Right.
Just that side, or the other side messed up too?
This side's good. This one's messed up.
This right here will tell you a lot of that, and it'll even tell you if you didn't get your wires all the way up into the other pins. Say somebody doesn't get their wires all the way to the end of the connector, or they have them out of the way. They have them out of the way to where, they have it to where it gets pulled back out of the area where the pins bite down through the casing of the wire. It'll tell you if you got open pairs too. It'll tell you, okay, 5 and 6 are open. And what orange, white, orange connects to is the pins 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and 6 are used by 100 megabit cards. A lot of times, all eight wires or all 4 pairs are used by 1,000 megabit, cards and Ethernet switches. If you got a true 1,000 megabits on both ends, it uses all the wires. But white, orange, orange, white, green, blue, white, blue, green, white, brown, brown. 1, 2, 3, and 6 cause your send and receive. 1 and 2 are send, 3 and 6 are receive. Then if you do the crossover, what you're doing is you're just reversing the send from one to the receive on the other, and vice versa. So, and Joe is being a trooper here. He's going to make sure that his cable passes. What will be not funny is it? Not joking.
So if we take one of those drop downs over there, plug it in that, go to the server, we put that address thing on the other end of it, will it tell us how far the cables run up to there?
Counting the length of the cable, going to the drop stuff. Within a lot of times, within a few inches or even a foot, it'll tell you roughly how long. Yes, it would tell you, like, say there was 125 feet of cable going up, going across the ceiling and going to the MDF, the main distribution facility. It would tell you how many feet, plus counting the amount of patch cord. So if you had a 3-foot patch cord, you would just deduct. If it said 128 feet, you would just say it's 125 feet because you know roughly how long the patch cord is that you're plugging into the panel. Because this requires you to have a cable connected to the drop. But yeah, this actually gauges and tells how long the cable is. It's a pretty cool little tool. It actually pretty good cable tester. And you can actually, this actually has a wire map on it that'll actually map out the wires for you, give you a ability to log which wires and then just keep track. So that, okay, these wires went here and here and here, and then you can store up to so many, I think.
Get halfway done with the job, you batteries go dead.
That would not be a good thing. So.
Check my shoe.
No, Mr. Taylor got rid of all those for friends already.
So that one just trolled me.
What's that?
That one that was already come just trolled me.
Oh. Oh yeah, the one that you had to. Yeah, and then I got
somebody put.
I didn't realize because I thought you crimped it, and then we realized that
somebody didn't do the job and throw it away. Probably Mr. Mouse doing the cables and just started to crimp it and the wires fell out.
Right.
Not saying anything about it, so I can get it in there.
There's a little trick to that too. You can actually pull it back out if you hold your thumb. If you grab like this, hold your thumb right here. Look, if you're brown, I think jumps.
It was in there.
Oh yeah. But when I pulled it out, it decided to twist. Yeah, they always like to jump a little bit when you're messing with them. But a lot of times you can actually trim them a little bit. That's what they do. You want to always keep your tab facing down. A lot of times, yep. Just the key is watching when you first get them shoved up in there. And once you get them guided and started in there pretty good, then you know, especially, then you can just play with them a little bit. That's the key is if you don't grip a connector on, you can end up fixing your mispair without. That's why I always do like a double check and then I crimp.
So how much power can those little cables carry from the network card?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how much voltage might be coming across the network card to the switch and back and forth. I know that they don't have to have a ton to send data across. But when it comes down to power over Ethernet, I think that's like 48 volts. So I know the wire can handle up to 48 volts. What power over Ethernet does is lets you power up an Ethernet, like if you have an access point, some of those will let you give power across.
Kind of like Bitcoin.
What it's not necessarily waking up a system and making it come on,
It's not waking up the system,
but it's getting its power over the network.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a special, there's like a special type of pack and like a baling.
I didn't get that far enough up in there. Probably. This one. That one's okay. This one's probably not far enough.
Here we go again.
Oh, your casing.
Yeah. I mean, it might work, but for next time I should
Oh
probably
yeah,
get it
yeah.
further in there.
Hey, this is what your first time creating a
Ever,
cable?
yeah, I've never done it.
Yeah. See, so you're doing awesome. If it tests out good, I'll call that good, man.
Thanks.
So this is what we're going to do is in networking class, we're going to just keep on practicing.
Hopefully,
Please love me this time.
fail.
I hate
Oh!
you. Another miswire, huh?
Miswire.
Miswire. I guess I'll do in there too fast again. Double check.
Yeah, I think you're doing it right, but just
Orange,
whenever it
orange, white.
goes in, it just tries to mess it up.
Green, white, blue, blue, white, green. That one's right. Orange, white, orange, green, blue, blue, white, green. Looks right to me. I don't know what happened.
Isn't it green, white, then blue, white?
Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. That's right. Wires are all the way in the end. You're going to be upset with yourself. You shoved them in with the tab facing up.
Upside down. That's what I did. See you guys Monday.
Hey, good job, Jeff. Thank you, guys.
I did learn a lot right
Thank
there.
you.
I've never tried anything like that before.
And
It's interesting how each wire.
I like the fact that we have students that a lot of times when you're learning something that you learn from mistakes, and it's not that we're singling out Joe or anything like that, but it happens. I don't know how many times that especially you start getting fast or you start putting the connector on, and you think you have everything right, and I know especially when I first started making cables.
Clip down.
I never got.
Learned.
I had problems with getting the casing up into the connector. I had problems with making sure that my tab was facing up as opposed, or down. I needed to make sure it was down, and I had it up.
That's my problem.
And I had to make sure my tab was facing down, and then I shoved left to right, orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown.
I'll do one Monday if you can afford to waste any more cable, and it'll be right.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of cable, and that's what it's for.
Plus,
we're not dealing with Cat 7 wire here, or Cat 6 wire or anything like that.
Gold coated.
Yeah, it cost me $1,000 a foot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is the actual performance lab section of this course. I will show my student competency sheet, my SCS sheet for making network cables with this. We use Cat 5 wire, but this same principle applies to Cat 6. And maybe one time we'll actually put up a video on how to do panels and drops, the Cat 5 drops and or Cat 6, whatever type of wire we're using. But the key is stay true to standard. That's the whole reason why we have standards, is that no matter where you go in the United States, that the reason why you have A+ certifications for networking, the reason why you have A+ certifications for hardware essentials, hardware the applications, whatever it might be, whether it's 220-701, 220-702, whatever it might be, that certifications, those are that if you go to any state or any other place, it lets you know that it's true to a standard and that you are being consistent with everybody. So thank you for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed this demonstration.